When it had been announced that Seunghan was rejoining Riize, I was shocked but optimistic. After all these years, will the Korean entertainment industry finally stand against the toxic fan culture it has cultivated since its earliest years? Apparently not, was the answer I received when 2 days later it was announced that he was leaving the group after massive protests from fans. I decided to make this video because there was a lot of resistance on the western side of the fan base regarding his departure. I made this video in response to that because, in my opinion, it was the best possible outcome for everybody. I'll first narrate Rise's formation, which I think is important to add more context to the story. Then I'll go through the different scandals that led to Seunghan's hiatus and then removal. I'll also explain why there is a cause for criticism with some of his actions because I keep on seeing the narrative that delusional fangirls are mad that he had a girlfriend prior to his debut, but it's really not that simple. Then I'll finish it off by explaining why his departure was the best thing for the group and himself after all that had happened. I hope you can keep an open mind despite your personal opinions on this issue. Rise was initially a 7 member boy group from SM Entertainment, consisting of the members Sungchan, Shotaro, Wonbin, Unsok, Anton, Sohee, and the now former member Seunghan. To learn the story of how Rise was formed, we start with NCT, a boy group from the same company. NCT is a K-pop brand composed of several subunits targeting different demographics and audiences. An example would be NCT 127 would mainly promote in Korea, with 127 being the longitude coordinate of the city of Seoul and is musically and visually inspired by the urban, experimental, and edgy aspect of the city. NCT Dream, on the other hand, initially focused on a younger crowd, with the members being mostly minors and their main theme and concept being youth, growth, and coming of age. Of course, as the members grew and matured, they took on a different sound and visual identity. In 2020, Sungchan and Shotaro were first introduced through a live stream and officially debuted in the group through NCTU. NCTU is a subunit of NCT with no fixed members. The lineup changes for every song, bringing together members from across NCT to match the style and concept of each track. Officially, they are members of NCT, although both of them had no fixed unit, meaning they were practically unemployed for more than 2 years. Part of their inactivity was due to the pandemic, and they did have activities here and there, but it was sparse and almost none of it had anything to do with music. Fast forward to 2022, Seunghan, Unsuk, and Shohei were introduced as SM Rookies, a team in SM Entertainment used to promote trainees who have yet to debut in a group. The 3 trainees were featured in several NCT content, fueling speculation that they would be added to the group. The 3 SM Rookies, along with Shotaro and Sungchan, were then featured performing together during SM Town, a concert featuring many acts from SM Entertainment. Although never confirmed, it was very likely that the 5 members would be in the next NCT unit, primarily promoting in Japan, or what fans had dubbed NCT Tokyo. In 2023, all that had changed when Sungchan and Shotaro were suddenly announced to be leaving NCT and would debut in a new boy group in the same year, which we now know to be Rise. So how did 2 members who were already in NCT and slated to join a fixed unit, Sungchan and Shotaro, suddenly get pulled out only to debut with Rise alongside 2 former SM rookies, Seunghan and Unsok, as well as the then unknown trainees, Anton, Wonbin, and Sohee, while one SM Rookies member, Shohei, took an extended hiatus and is only now debuting in a trot group, a genre of Korean music with a traditional sound. 2 reasons. First was Shohei was injured with a spinal disc injury. This means that the group the company had envisioned and prepared was no longer able to debut at the time they needed it to. Simply, the company's plans had fallen apart. The other reason is what can be described as an internal corporate power struggle that escalated into a strategic external takeover battle. I'm not gonna get into it since that deserves its own video, and if you look around, I'm sure there's someone who made a perfectly adequate telling of its events. But the important fact here is that Riize Seunghan, the founder of SM Entertainment, was ousted from the company he founded, and Kakao Entertainment, a large Korean media conglomerate, became a significant shareholder of the company. This is important because that means there's a significant restructuring of SM and its management. Isuman was said to be the greatest advocate of the NCT system. It is widely believed that the new management of SM were not so keen on the group, the biggest indicator being that it was announced that NCT Wish, the unit focused in Japan, would be the last NCT unit. The speculation was that since Seungchan and Shotaro had amassed a fandom in Korea through their activities while waiting for their placement in a fixed unit, it would be a waste to debut them in a group focused in Japan, so they were pulled out of NCT. Seungchan and Shotaro, alongside Unsok and Seunghan from SM Rookies, were then pulled together with several other trainees to form a group. In an episode of MMTG, it was revealed that the members of Rise were finalized only after Shotaro and Wonbin choreographed the dance rhythm, which was reviewed by the company. The group was first announced through a press release in July 2023, and later on in August, the members were officially unveiled through the group's Instagram account. The group debuted on September 4, 2023 with their song Get a Guitar. So let's get into the controversies that led to his dismissal from the group. The first one was leaked photos with a girl. They were kissing, and I believe they were in a hotel, or that was at least what people were saying. He quickly apologized for this, and part of his statement read, "Due to my personal issues, I caused harm to the team at a very important and critical moment ahead of our debut and disappointed the members and the staff." 2 months after Rise's debut, an Instagram live was leaked wherein Seunghan and Subin of the group TXT were joking around. In the video, Seunghan tells Subin, "It's a fact. You can't dance, sing, or rap. You're all just excited because you emceed for Music Bank. You even got to meet our Unche," referring to La Seraphim's Unche. This was said in a joking manner, indicating they were close friends. Although nothing bad was said about Unche, the fans of her group, La Seraphim, did not appreciate her being mentioned. A literal, "now I'm in it" moment.
That to so be true. I just thought it was funny. And you
Regardless of the context, when her name was mentioned and what was controversial, her fans were just not happy. A day after, a video was leaked of Seunghan smoking casually on the street while walking. This is something that, in my opinion, warrants genuine criticism. Smoking outside designated spaces isn't allowed, and I believe in Korea, if you get caught, you get fined for it. But even beyond the legality of smoking, it's honestly just plain rude. It's just disrespectful to others who are passing by to be able to get a whiff of your cigarette. And even when people do smoke on the street, which I've seen in Korea, they usually go to the corner just to avoid bothering people with it. In my opinion, this was just bad public etiquette. But by this point, Sunghan's reputation had taken a dive in the eyes of his fans and the Korean public. It's important to note, and I want everybody to remember this, the fact that he caused controversy for the group at all is just as damaging as the controversy itself. Regardless of what had happened, what he did, or what he didn't do, the fact that he brought the group negative spotlight for reasons unrelated to their work is enough to garner criticism. And I see most fans not understanding this, particularly from the West. After all the controversy, Seunghan was placed on a hiatus by SM on November 2022. For around 10 months, Rice promoted as six, and despite all the setbacks due to the controversy surrounding the members, they were able to achieve great success. The group was able to sell more than 1.3 million copies of their debut album, which is extremely high for any group, let alone a new one. The hiatus was, in hindsight, a huge misstep. At that time, it might have seemed to be the best option as it allowed Rise to promote without the baggage of controversy, but it also allowed the group to be successful without Seunghan, cultivating a fan base with only the six members. I believe a huge part of the fandom they had built during their debut year didn't care for him because they didn't know him. They had only seen Rise as six members, and the only one that wasn't there was deemed controversial or was kicked out because of controversy. What many people had assumed, including myself, was this was a classic case of the hiatus to removal pipeline. This is usually done in order to avoid alarming the fans and the media, and to discreetly introduce the idea of certain members being absent from the group. This was not the case, as Seunghan was announced back to the group after nearly 10 months of inactivity. The announcement caused a shockwave within the fandom, with some fans rejoicing his return, while others were furious. Many fans were so set against his return that they organized a protest by sending more than 1,000 funeral wreaths outside SM Entertainment's building. Fans had also begun canceling pre orders for merch and were allegedly targeting companies who had Riize as brand ambassadors. The response to his return was a shock to me, though I shouldn't have been. I knew there would be a portion of the fan base against his return, but I really didn't think they hated him that much. When I saw the funeral wreaths, I knew then and there that he was going to leave the group. And 2 days after his announced return, another announcement was posted through the group's official X account, signed off by Kim Hyung-guk and Lee Sang-min, directors of the group's production team. In his translation by Sumpi, part of the statement read, "However, the announcement of his return, we ruminated carefully in each and every one of the opinions and responses sent in by fans, and we realized that our decision had actually hurt fans more and caused them greater confusion instead. At the same time, Seunghan has consistently expressed his desire to leave the group for the sake of the members and the fans. Out of respect for the artist's decision, we are announcing Seunghan's departure from Riize instead of his joining the group. We will support Seunghan in the future so that he can showcase his talents and follow his dreams." After the announcement, OT7 Riize fans were furious and proceeded to boycott SM Entertainment, and major media outlets in the West picked up on the story. The whole controversy had gone from bad to worse. A month after his departure from the group, another announcement was made regarding Seunghan's future activities. It was announced that he would be debuting as a solo artist in the second half of 2025. This, in my opinion, is the best outcome for everyone. This removed him from Riize, pacifying the OT6 fans, and his solo activities would also pacify the OT7 fans. Even after his announced solo activities, many OT7 fans online are still mad and are militant over his return to the group. With how much hate Seunghan has received after his announced return, it was clear that his return caused a genuine and significant safety risk to himself and the members of Riize. It's not an exaggeration to say that angry fans may cause him harm. Maybe people don't know about this, but K-pop idols are not allowed to receive food from fans. And the reason for this is Yunho from TVXQ was literally poisoned by a hater. The story goes that he was given orange juice from what he thought was a fan. After drinking it, he began to vomit and was quickly rushed to the hospital. It was found out that the drink had been laced with super glue, and he was hospitalized for a few days following the incident. This was a very real attempt on his life, and although nothing as crazy has happened since, at least to my knowledge, it is still a possibility. Despite how you feel about the whole controversy regarding Seunghan, with the whole funeral wreaths, his presence in the group is a huge safety concern for him and the group. I obviously don't condone this behavior, nor do I think companies should bend towards the craziest parts of the fandom. But at that point in the whole saga, there was no turning back. Idols in Korea foster the unhealthiest form of parasocial relationships, and it's how the industry is set up. The industry purposefully targets younger audiences who are more impressionable and emotionally vulnerable. The industry creates an illusion of accessibility and intimacy through constant updates, live streams, and carefully curated personas. Idols are marketed not just as entertainers, but as close friends or even potential romantic partners. The dynamic is also reinforced by strict no dating rules and the promotion of a sanitized, idealized image, which fosters an unhealthy level of attachment from fans. The line between admiration and obsession often blurs, with some fans feeling a sense of ownership over their favorite idols. This dependency is further exploited through fan events, exclusive merchandise, and tiered memberships that encourage spending to maintain this illusion of closeness. While it's easy to criticize the fans, it's important to recognize that the industry is deliberately structured to capitalize on these intense emotions. At its core, it's a business model that thrives on fostering dependency rather than genuine connection. With this in mind, the biggest spenders are quite frankly not the most well adjusted members of society.
Excuse me, is that Mr. Choi, right?
Yes.
Your full name is Vernon Hansel Choi, right?
Hansel Vernon Trey.
Hansel Vernon Choi, right?
Hansel Vernon Trey.
Okay, you are under arrest for being too hot. You have the right to remain sexy, but everything you say can and will make me blush. So, put your hands in the air and come to
Fans bulk buying and spending thousands of dollars per release just to increase sales, quite frankly, have deeper issues that they need to address. I knew a girl who used to bulk buy Red Velvet albums, buying as much as 150 copies per release, and financially, she was not in a position to do so. I knew this because literally, before Red Velvet would release an album, she would not be eating. She would be saving money just to buy those 150 copies. We weren't that close, so I really never said anything about it. But honestly, she should have used that money to get the help that she clearly needed. My point is, the same people who would spend thousands of dollars of their hard earned money just to inflate their favorite group sales are also the same people who would organize a protest and send funeral wreaths to a living person just to express their displeasure. I googled it online and found funeral wreaths are in the $70 to $100 range. That's not cheap, and to send 1,000 amounting to as much as $100,000 is a definition of insanity. The fans who would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars were not only threatening to pull out, but also allegedly targeting to protest against companies working with Riize, such as National Geographic. I will reiterate, it's not what Seunghan did, but rather how it affects Rice. You may not like it, but him being brought back to the group would have negative consequences. Let me close this out by saying the just outcome is not necessarily the best outcome. It was unfortunate that the whole situation went from bad to worse. But until the industry changes its fan culture that it has cultivated, this will happen again and again in the future.